Hey y'all, hey, we are back for another review of SISTAS. Please forgive me if I sound a little bit congested. I am downhill from a really bad sinus infection, so I am a little bit under the weather, but I did not want to prolong getting this video out to you guys, so, give me a like on the video just for that. So we're going to push through. Hopefully there's not much coughing and congestion that shows up, but I'm going to do the best I can. Jump right into it. We're on SISTAS season 6, episode 20, entitled "The Last Laugh." Danny finally gets home, and Preston has been fuming the whole time that she's been gone. We know in the last episode he walked up on her, talking to Tony, and made some presumptions based on the conversation that he overheard. He asked her how was work, just same old, some small talk, and asked her does she want to talk about today, and she goes, well, not really. I've had a long day, like a whole lot of shit that went down today. Maybe tomorrow. And he's been sitting there all day just waiting to talk to her. We also found out that he left her a gift at work or at the car or wherever, and she left it, and I guess she didn't even have time to look at it or think to look at it or whatever. The sentiment is because she's had a lot going on that day. So they're going to have that issue throughout this whole episode, but that'll come. Moving on. Miss Cheryl has called Fatima the night before and told them, like, hey, y'all need to hurry up and get down here because something's going on. Ambulances everywhere, and I don't know what's going on at this apartment. So y'all need to come on. And so when they get there, Michelle, she told them that last episode. We pick up here with Miss Cheryl. She's standing outside waiting for them to pull up. They eventually go upstairs, and Heather's wrist is getting grabbed by a medic. There's blood on the gauze, which appears she has gotten into a domestic incident, which we later learn within the episode. And so they're greeted with so much attitude, like, y'all need to get up out of here. And there's some random dude in the corner smoking a cigarette. It ain't even the dude that they just had to beat the hell up the time before. This is a whole brand new dude. And she claims that she cut her wrist on some broken glass. And Zach is telling Fatima, like, listen, I'm not going to be able to leave my son here. He wants to take that child. He wants to get the hell out of that situation. But if we doing it the legal way, you can't do it like that. You gotta chill, my boy. I know it's hard, but you have to chill. And then the same cop that showed up at Zach's house showed up in this scene and says that he got some reports of a domestic incident. And turns out Miss Cheryl called the cops and told them, like, listen, they up there fighting, something is going on. And so if Miss Cheryl's the one to call the cops, when Fatima and Zach showed up and they asked her, like, what's going on, she was like, well, I don't know. I know it's something going on up there. Girl, you knew enough to tell the cops that it was a domestic incident. You could have told them that as well, just so they could, I don't know if they would have, but, breathe a little bit easier knowing that maybe Michael wasn't in danger. It was Heather that was getting her ass monkey stumped, but whatever. And so the cops asked Fatima and Zach, I think y'all should leave. I know you're the father, but I think y'all should leave, so the situation can die down a little bit. And that was the end of that. And so, everybody goes back downstairs. And for me, if you know that Michael has a history of being abused and ambulances are there and you show up and the cops are also there, myself, I'm going to put a word for a check-in on the spot. Hey, can y'all at least put eyes on the child and make sure that the child is okay? Because I personally have seen welts or, I would have to relate the story to the cops. Like, hey, can y'all do a welfare check while we're here? She's saying that the child is okay, but can we physically put eyes on the child to make sure that he is fine? And then we'll leave. Like, some type of give and take. I don't think that would have been a far reach than to leave without, putting your eyes on baby Michael. And they thank Miss Cheryl for calling them, keeping them abreast of what's going on. And she was like, listen, Miss Heather only got one more time to call me a B word or to cuss at me or to do anything. And y'all ain't even going to have to worry about custody because I'm going to beat her ass myself. And Zach is like, yeah, I think I like you, Miss Cheryl. And he was like, listen, I'll pay you to do it. I sure will. I'll pay you to do it. And Fatima was like, listen, you can't say that. Yes, he can, because y'all the only 3 witnesses to this conversation. If she beats the hell out of Heather and, makes it where that child has to go with Zach, cool. However, it's a little bit too late for all that because y'all have already involved the legal system. And, since we want to do the right thing like Spike Lee, we should just keep going on that path, unfortunately. All right. Karen calls Fatima, and it was a very random call, and tells her, listen, The contractor, she tells her about the hand-me-downs that's going to be coming from the contractor, and to ask Zach, are those things that he could potentially use for baby Michael. And Tim was like, okay, I asked him, and that's the extent of the call. It's not long. It's no animosity. There's nothing. She is genuinely trying to be a nice person, dare I say. And me, you, Fatima, Zach, we're all confused about the shift in Karen's mood, but we're not going to write her off as a great person just yet, because, again, it is still Karen. So, a kind gesture, to say the least. All right, it's the next day, and Preston wakes Danny up 2 hours ahead of her schedule because he wants to have the talk the night before that she could be bothered to have. And he tells her, like, listen, let's just do it now because you're going to be at work all day. When you get here, you're not going to want to talk this evening just like you did last night. I don't want to keep going through that. Let's talk. Let's get it out the way now. And then she's like, okay, like, she's kind of dazed. She's kind of groggy from still waking up. And he wants to talk about everything that is happening. And he asks her if she's sleeping with Tony. She's like, no, not at all. Absolutely not. I just met him. And he was like, yeah, I understand, but you do have a history of sleeping with people on the first night that you met them. Now, if I'm not mistaken, she didn't sleep with Preston the first night she met him, and quite a few people. So what that tells me is that you are referencing the person that went on to spit on her and assault her. So you started the conversation out wrong, to basically throw in her face like, hey, I know you sleep with dudes the first night you meet them. Again, to only one person that you can confirm, Preston, and this is the person that ends up being the most traumatic of her experiences. So that's not a good way to start a conversation that you want to get to the root of what y'all's particular problem is. It's going to be a shit show. It's going to be a pissing match. And that's just what it goes on to be. And so she's like, whatever you say, if you say so, sure. And he was like, okay, you just met Tony, you haven't slept with him yet, or I can only assume that you haven't slept with him. So what does that mean for us? And she's like, I don't know. Like, she's just paying him dust because, sir, you walked into the conversation with your own assumptions, with your own outcome. You were getting dressed and packing up your shit and, doing all these finalities before the conversation even begins. So you walked into the conversation with your own presumptions and how you thought this was going to go, right? And so she agreed, whatever you say, we'll go with that. And then he goes on to tell her, like, listen, I don't think you're ready to commit, and that you only agreed to be with me because old dude attacked you and you needed somebody here so that you could feel safe. Now, if you know anything about Danny, that is so far from the truth. But again, you've come to your own conclusion, and you're not really here to have a conversation. You're here to tell her how you feel. And that's cool. That's cool, but not under the guise of, oh, let's have a conversation when you're the only person conversing. All right? All right. And he goes on to say, like, he's just done. He's done with it. There might have been a B word slipping there. And again, Danny has none of the energy to go through it. And all she has to say in response to all of this is, okay. And he goes on. He's still beating the horse that's already dead. He thinks that she's never going to be able to love him back, even though he knows she's been with other people in the time that they've been talking, and he just can't pry himself from the love that he has for her, and he knows that she's never going to be able to love him back. He's done with the situation, blah, 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 blah. And some people may be willing to side with Preston. However, I'm not willing to sympathize with him, because what I realize in this situation is that those two are never going to be on the same page, because it was so much presumptive malice going back and forth between the two. It's too much perceived damage, not even actual damage that's been done, but perceived damage that's going to be hard to come back from. Not only that, Preston takes this high and mighty stance as Danny is doing him wrong because he overheard her having a conversation with someone she met the night before. Meeting someone does not equate intimacy. Meeting someone does not equate relationship and or interest. It just means she met him. Could have been at the gas station, could have been, you don't know because you didn't bother listening. Either way, he has made his assumption about Danny's plans with Tony, right? What I also realized is Preston is also pressed for Danny to be at the same level of commitment that he is. He loves her. He wants to get married. He wants what do you call it? Monogamy. He wants all these things today, right now, in this instant, right? And what we have to realize is that even though this has been going on for seasons, this is basically only like weeks or months. It's not been a long time frame in TV land, right? And so there's a whole lot of expectation, and y'all are literally y'all conversation when coming back into each other's lives after you sent your fiance back to Chattahoochee or wherever the hell she came from. Remember, Preston left 2 or 3 times on this flight back to Mindy because Mindy loved him better than he loved himself, and he was going to propose to her because Danny won't accept his proposal, right? Remember all those games that went on for days and days and days, and Danny let you do what you felt you had to do, my boy. But you can't handle just the mere thought of her entertaining someone else. It's just too much for you to handle. You dishing it, but you can't handle it. And so in this scene, I don't feel bad for Preston. And what I also learned in this episode is that those two ain't gonna never make it. Because one of their big issues is that they don't have much in common. And that is unfortunately the risk you take when you crossing cultures. And so that's where we at with the situation. So hopefully they just move on. I just hope they move the hell on. That's my hope. Moving right along. Jordan calls Andy and he apologizes for not checking on her the night before. Of course, he was with his sister, making sure she's okay. And we know that she's been crying, the night before, cried herself to sleep. And we know that can't be good for the baby, but, she's going through the emotions. But he's glad that she now knows. Unfortunately, the circumstances under which how she found out, not ideal, but now the cat's out of the bag. And of course apologizes for how that goes. Jordan goes on to tell her, like, hey, Penelope wants to talk to you because she has, more that she'd like to ask questions about and more that she'd like to say. And Andy's unsure about that just yet. Just let me feel it out. I'm not sure. And then Jordan also offers to take her out for lunch. And again, Andy is not sure about that either. Which I can understand why you might not be ready to go to lunch just yet with Jordan. But for me, it would be too awkward to pursue. For me. That's just me. All right. Karen stops by to check on Andy. And Karen reminds her that Jordan shouldn't pay for Gary's sins, essentially. Understand, that's easier said than done, especially now looking at the co-mingling of those 4 people with Penelope and Jordan, Gary and Andy. It could be hard to, separate yourself from that. Then Andy tells Karen that she might still be in love with Gary because you can't turn love off just like that. Girl, I would hate to say I disagree, but I disagree. I don't know. It's just certain things, if you do to me, my love, it immediately dries up and withers and dies. That's just me. I might be a little bit too cut and dry in that aspect, but that's just how that works. For me, in my mind, in my heart, in my soul. There's certain things, if you do to me, love my ass. It ain't working. All right. And she tells Karen that she should know that better than anybody else. Blah, 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 blah. Karen reminds her that she is going to be just fine as they have been before. Essentially, letting her know like things won't always be like they are currently. And, again, understandable. All right. Wise words from Karen, I suppose. Andy gives Karen a check for the full balance for the repairs. And Karen is like, girl, you could just write a check for that full amount. She was like, yeah, I told you I was going to help you. So, yeah. And so Karen promises to pay her back, and we go through that. All right, so Danny is at work. She finally gets to work. And, of course, Tony pops up out of the woodwork. I don't know where he come from. And they commiserate over being similar. And so that's why in the episode earlier I said that Preston and Danny are not going to get along because there's a whole lot of similarities when it comes to Tony and Danny. And not that you have to be similar, but you got to have something in common. And it doesn't seem like those two have anything in common when it comes to Preston and Danny. And so she asks him about Penelope, and he tells her, not good, but as good as can be, essentially. We relearn that they're both only children. They both willing to test some shit up. Just, again, more similarities between the two. And then she's looking at him, she realizes, like, he look kind of good in that suit. And do you be wearing suits all the time? And he's like, yeah, I do. And she was like, well, what do you do here? Like, I see you working at the counter sometimes. And he claims to be the VP, the vice president of something. Don't remember what, tell me in the comments because I don't remember. And she goes and asks, like, okay, so you make pretty good money. Why are you driving that kidnapper van? And he did, make her feel bad. He was like, it's my dad's van. I inherited it when he passed away, and it just makes me feel closer to him. It reminds me of him, so I just keep driving the van. She's like, oh, okay. I put my foot in my mouth. My bad, Sorry about that. And then they go on into work. All right, so Karen gets to the shop to meet the contractors, and he shows her one of the drawings or blueprints or whatever that one of his football students was able to draw up for her. So not only is he a contractor, he's a football coach, and, just all around a good person, it appears to be. He gives her the boys' items, and she tells him, like, thank you, even if my child is not a boy or can't use this stuff, I know someone. And, of course, that is Zach and baby Michael. And he tells her, like, she's entering the best years of her life right now, talking about parenthood and, the impending child that's on the way. And while that is nice, it's annoying. It is annoying to tell people that the best years of their life is dictated on parenthood. I don't got no kids, so that be pissing me off because is my life not going to be good if I don't? Like, what are you trying to say? Either way, I'm not going to get in a soapbox because I'll be here forever, and my throat was starting to hurt, and y'all know I'm sick, so I'm about to move on. He tells her that the price has changed. I'm assuming the price went down. I couldn't really figure out, but whatever the price is, he's offering it's for a new location in the building that he built where the current owner couldn't make the payments or something happened, and so he's offering her the location. Her rent will be the same as it is now with the better landlord, all that good stuff, and it's also not far from the current location, and so he's going to take her over there to look at that spot. Hayden and Tamara are headed out. She's about to walk him to the car so he can go off to work and have a good day, as the doting wife should, child. And Gary comes walking out from the shadows with some paperwork in hand. Gary wants to talk to Hayden alone, and so he basically don't got much to say to Tamara. He dismisses her and gives him the paperwork. And his private investigator tells him that, comes up with information, lets him know that Tamara is a plant. She works for Fatima's cousin, and obviously Fatima set her up. She is a decoy that was set here with a scheme from the beginning, and he just cannot believe this is going on. She's been playing him all along, and he is immediately out for vengeance. He wants to take her for every dime. He wants to make her life so difficult, and he says he ain't really told us if he's talking about Fatima or Tamara, but I'm sure his sights are going to be refocused on Fatima now that this information is out, unfortunately. I was hoping Tamara was going to be able to take him for everything he got. They're married, and she didn't sign a prenup, so hopefully we'll see. But now that the secret's out, we'll have to deal with that. Next time, Hayden's going to come on the next, previews for the next episode. Hayden is going to confront Fatima. Penelope is going to ambush Andy to to get her to talk to her. And Tamara is going to deny knowing Fatima, and hopefully that's going to hold up. And so, yeah, not a whole lot going on in this episode. Couple gems, but that's been about it. Let me know what you think about the episode in the comments. Like, comment, share, subscribe, or whatever it is that you feel like doing. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.